Alright, welcome back folks. So in this video, I'm going to go over some things that if I were a beginner, I would have liked to have known as I started playing the game. So I've purposefully chosen a replay played by two of my friends, which was played quite some time ago. And basically, it's two new players going up against each other. I think at the time when this game was being played, I myself had only just completed the tutorial and played like two matches against Red. So you're going to see here all the mistakes that new players make, and I'm just going to walk through all the things that occur in this match because a lot of things occur in this match, which makes it a really good battle to look at and analyze. So I'm just going to hit the play button here. So we have Steel on blue side and Red on the red side. Yep, very nice. Both players have been featured on my channel for quite a long time, I think several years at this point, playing other games. So right off the bat, we have an offensive in the north by Steel going off and attacking with his heavy unit. Now, you're not going to see either player play the economy game. So this is the first big mistake. So as a new guy, what you want to do is that you want to put units on your cities because this is the way that you can basically boost your economy. And the way that works is that unlike other games, you don't have resource management or resource collection. In this game, it's upkeep cost, which is how you can generate funds, and the funds are noted on the top right corner here. So each unit has an upkeep cost, and if you put a unit on a city, you basically negate the upkeep costs. You remove the upkeep costs, and once you do that, then you get funds floating into your economy. So that's the way the game does resource management. It's very simplified, but it's how the game is. It's a very minimalist game, and it is quite a lot of fun, even though it's very simple. So that's what neither side is doing here. Now, the drawback for doing this is, of course, is that you pull units off from the front line. Let me just pause the game here before something big happens. You pull units off the front line to uh, boost your economy via the way that I've just mentioned. And now, in this map here, it's not that big of a burden because on this map deployment, both sides are given reserve units. Groups like this here, and there was another group in the south. So it's already given you units that you can put on cities. In other map deployments, you're not going to have reserve units, which means that you're going to have to take units from the front line. And this is where a sort of drawback comes into play, is that if you're the first person to pull units off the front line to boost the economy, you've now given the enemy an advantage on the front line. So if you're a new player and you're going to try this out, there is a chance that if you're playing up against a more experienced player, even taking one or two units off the front line is more than enough of an advantage if the person is good enough with his micro to give him a decisive advantage on the front line and begin to push you back and maybe even achieve a breakthrough. My recommendation is take the risk, all right? I think the way it goes in the song is that you first have to know how to lose before you can win. Uh, do that, right? If you're a beginner, lose as many games as possible because that's where all the learning happens. And once you get that done, right, then you, in the long run, become a much better player in this game. So yeah, that's my recommendation there, is that boost the economy. Now, as to how much boosting you should do, there's quite a lot of high ranking players that will just put a unit on every city, but there's also quite a decent amount of players where they only put on like about 75%, like three quarters of their cities. So not every city is going to have a unit taken from the front line or from the reserves and then put on the city to boost the economy. Then they keep the rest on the front line to cycle. Cycling is something I'll discuss in just a second here. Cycle units on the front line. So there's pros and cons, there's drawbacks and things that you can consider. It's just that make sure that you try some boosting at least, especially if you're a new player, and start getting practice with that. Now we'll go on to cycling units. So you're not going to see much cycling happen in this match here, just because that it's, like I said, between two new players. The way that unit combat works, right? So we just take a look here. So if the unit is like moving around like this on the spot, it means it's engaged in combat. And when a unit is attacking another unit, all right, you can see that the morale bar, which is the blue bar here, starts to decrease. So in this case here, what we can see is that Steel's light infantry unit is attacking Red's heavy unit here in the center. And because this is not really a good example because it's two different unit types, but we're just gonna have to go with it. Ah, no, here's a much better example. Two light infantry units that are going at each other. Steel is the one that's doing the attacking here. And the kind of way you can tell is by looking at the depletion rate on the morale bar. Now, in this case here, the morale bar has already been depleted, so not that good an example, but I'm not gonna rewind or anything. The attacking unit will deplete its morale faster than a defending unit. And then what happens is that once a unit's morale bar depletes, its combat effectiveness starts to decrease as well. So there's a slight difference here in these two. It's kind of hard to see, but Red's unit is healthier than Steel's unit here. And that's because the attacking unit depletes its morale faster and renders itself combat ineffective faster. So a defender always has an advantage, right? You want to keep that in mind when you're conducting offensives. The way that you want to have a successful offensive is to have reserve units that you can cycle. And cycle basically means taking a depleted unit away from the front line and then putting a fresh unit in its place. Now, taking a unit off the front line can replenish its health and morale so long as the unit is 2 units lengths away from an enemy unit, right? So let's take this unit here on the left side here that's already yellow health and its morale is pretty much depleted. He is far away from the front line that it's going to start healing itself. So it'll start regaining health and morale so long as it's far away enough from enemy units. Now, another way you can increase your recovery rate on a unit is to put it in a city. Now, this goes hand in hand with what I was discussing earlier regarding boosting your economy. The way that you kind of want to practice is that once you have depleted units that you want to cycle out of the front line, what you want to do is you want to put them into your city, right? Because the city gives them increased health and morale recovery rates. And then whatever unit that you had at the beginning that you've put on the city that's boosted, you want to cycle that to the front line. And that's one of the best ways to go about cycling units. Now, of course, you only have a limited amount of cities, so you're not going to be able to do this for every unit that's going to be on the front line. Other units are going to have to be cycled out by just taking away from the front line and keeping them in the reserve area here, and then recovering their health and morale via the slow rate, and not the increased rate that's given by cities. These are the trade-offs that you're going to have to juggle with when you're conducting offensives or defenses on the front line here. So those are like really the two main basic things that you need to know as a new player, that you want to get as much practice as possible during your early games. Even though if it like loses you the battles in the front, if you're going up against an experienced player who can knows how to micro, just do it anyway, right? Because in the long run, it'll help you out. I'm not gonna go too much into the micro just because I don't want new players to focus too much on the micro just yet. But all you need to know is that if you get a numerical mismatch on an enemy unit, right, that's always a big plus. All right, you get massive bonuses from doing that. So that's something you can keep in mind for that. Now we'll continue on with the replay here. Red decides to do a very bold maneuver here. He gets 4 light infantry units, puts them into the river. Once a unit enters a water terrain, it after 3 seconds turns into a boat. And this is what he's done here. He's converted 4 light units into boats, and he's going straight for Steel's capital. And it's because new players don't quite understand how all the mechanics work. Steel blocks them coming off to the bridge here with his heavy unit, but he doesn't pull enough units back to prevent the light units from embarking back onto land, changing back into light infantry, and then maneuvering out, because now he's just stuck here. And Red basically captures the capital. Now, this right here is basically a game-winning position. The moment a player captures an enemy city, he basically has a massive advantage in terms of economy and in terms of points. And you can see here, Steel has to collapse his entire defenses on the north side to come back and defend the capital, retake the capital. And this is where another part of why I wanted to feature this replay to teach new players is that Red takes too long a time to exploit the collapse in the defenses in the north. He gets caught up with this just one bridge here, which it wasn't quite necessary. He could have easily have crossed the river at the shorter points here. But he gets held up there. And not only that, even though he got held up, he actually still is in the winning position right here. He's just not acting fast enough. So basically, if he had blitzed both his two light units up here off to these two cities on the left and right on the northernmost shore here, he could have easily have captured it in time to basically have two extra cities in hand. As you see, he's still just waiting here. And by this point, it's too late. Steel manages to recapture his capital. And now we get into the problem of overextension. So, going back to the southern front here, no unit cycling has really happened, so you're going to see a lot of depleted units all here. And it's just going to come down to pure attrition as to who wins this fight. Now, Steel makes a counterattack in the north, trying to regain his cities, and so, okay, here's a very, very good example. The way that cities work in terms of power projection is that there is no connection with the other cities. Basically, having a city surrounded by enemy cities, there is no correlation or there is no relationship between the cities. So this city right here, Steel has recaptured. It's now projecting power in its immediate vicinity, and its power projection is so powerful that despite the fact that there are clear lines of supply back to red cities via the northern route, right? It doesn't matter. That's not how the game mechanics work. Because they're closer to his city, its city is overriding their projection of power, and basically all his units here, which weren't encircled just a few seconds ago, are now encircled. So this is another big thing that you have to keep in mind as a new player, as to how the encirclements, the supply logistics, and the power projection of units and cities is important. Because you don't want to end up what happens here. Red is basically overextended his supply lines, even though, as I said just now, it's not really a direct supply line to his cities. It's just that the power projection of being closer to the enemy's hub, in this case the city, is overriding and basically getting him encircled. So, there goes that, and yeah, it's basically over here. The entire northern front here collapses, Red loses all his units, and then this is followed up by Steel regrouping his forces back into the north, and then flanking around to the north. Now, to the south here, yep, still basically a stalemate, but Red is having some success now. That's due to the fact that Steel was the one that initiated his frontal assault first. So his units started this fight in a more depleted state than Red's. So it's given him an advantage, especially since this conflict in the southern front has been going on since the beginning of the game. Red now has an advantage. If he wants to make any last minute plays, he's gonna have to do some like wild maneuvers. The problem is that he doesn't quite do that. He doesn't go for any major encirclements or breakthroughs, and by the time he does go for it, it's just a little bit too late. So you can see here, Steel has already regrouped his forces and are now moving into the north. There's nothing here to defend and stop it. Yeah. We have some retreats being planned here, but orders have not yet been executed. I don't think Ray quite realized that the enemy was on his doorstep. You do not want to vacate a city, even though in this case it wouldn't have mattered because he was outnumbered and this was a fresh tank unit that had just been deployed. I'm not going to go too much into detail regarding army builds and army compositions and building units. I'll do that another time. But just as a rule of thumb is that don't willingly give up cities. It's usually not in your best interest. Giving up territory like space and land, now that can be used to your advantage. And there are quite a lot of sick plays that have been pulled off. I've pulled off a couple myself where we willingly give up space in order to feint the enemy into an attack and then crush him as he overextends. That is a very valid strategy that can happen. But I've yet to see a game where someone willingly gave up a city and then won the game via a gambit type strategy. I haven't quite seen that just yet. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but I haven't seen it done. So at this point, there is not much that can be done. Steel has far too many units in the back lines now. He's already gone and captured 2 cities, 3 now. Capital has been taken. It's just a matter of time before everything else collapses. And yeah, it is basically Jover. So yeah, a lot of wild maneuvers that happen in this game, but it made it a great learning experience for the players, and of course a great opportunity for me to make this video to showcase the things that can be done, things that you should be doing, and all that stuff. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and if I get enough attention on this video, I'll see if I can make videos regarding more advanced stuff like the economy, army compositions, your building units, and more advanced maneuvers. So yeah, thank you for watching.